is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, it's a cold day in my home base of Denver, Colorado. We actually have our first snow of the season as we are broadcasting right now, and we knew it was going to come, so it is what it is. What we want to do is turn up the heat on some of the things you do with social media. And so this show is going to be dedicated to Twitter power. And I'm a huge fan of Twitter. I've been an aggressive user from the get-go of Twitter, and that I have really used it effectively to really grow our audience for our AuthorU-Your Guide to Book Publishing radio show. And there are tips and tricks I'm going to go throughout our hour together. But let's just kind of get into some updates of what's going on in Twitterland and really, what it is, why Twitter, when should you tweet, when do you back off, how do you use it for book promotion, book launching, book campaigns, bestseller, and so much more. So the first thing to really do is really to think of, let's start with, so what in the heck is this? And I think one of the best ways to phrase it is that it's kind of like micro blogging. So instead of a full-blown blog that can go on for words and words, paragraphs, pages and pages sometimes, it's a mini version. So it's defined, Twitter or microblogging would be defined as a very quick update, usually contained in a very limited number of characters. And of course, you use spaces and your punctuation in that character count. Now, with that what you want to do is know that if you are interested in any type of media coverage, you better be tweeting, because reporters, journalists routinely survey Twitter for trends, for experts, and the like. So you want to take an advantage of this. And that's the way you would look at that. So Twitter's a great place to keep people, and eventually people who follow you, informed of what you're up to without the need to spend a whole lot of time crafting an entire post on whatever the subject is. You just say it and you're done. So for people like me who like things short and snappy, it's an ideal forum. And when you think about it, it is social messaging. Twitter has started as this microblogging service, and actually, in fact, it was something that really was all about, really took off with tweets, and the whole hashtag, certainly with using hashtags, is when there was a huge fire in the San Diego in California area where the fire chief said, hey, I'm just going to put a pound sign in front of SD fire and you can follow what's going on. And that kind of made history. So if you turn, and why tweet? Look, if you turn on any news channel, whether it's CNN, whether it's Fox, whether it's Meet the Press, there is always running feeds where they refer you back to Twitter. And you find the whole streaming. If you're at outdoor festivals, it's not uncommon for people to be tweeting and telling you to use a specific hashtag, and everybody will follow it. So that's what a Twitter feed would be all about in that, and when you bring it and ways to it. So some great ways for beginners, say you're a beginner, and how to get started with this whole thing. So let's just kind of jump into that. In that, you want to keep up with, you start with your profile. And I have to tell you, this is critical for you to make sure that you have the right profile in where you're going. So the profile, and with that profile, you're going to select, before you set up the profile, you're going to select what they call a handle. Your name would be called a handle. Now, I'm going to tell you, you're cuckoo if you're starting to put cutesy stuff or a whole bunch of numbers in your name if you have to do that, because there's a whole bunch of Sam Smiths out there. That you had to find out some variations of that. So when people are tracking you down within Twitter, there would be the @ sign and @ and then whatever name you select. And I have a couple of handles. For me, there is the @ AuthorU, the letter U, and that's for the AuthorU stream. And then for my own personal, I use @MyBookShepherd, which I'd love to have you follow and join back, and I will follow you back. But @MyBookShepherd, and then I have another personal that I use just for some own individual tracking, which would just be my name. But decide what you want. Maybe you have to do Sam Smith author, or author Sam Smith, or some variation of that people will recognize you. You've got to make it easy for people to find you, and that's what's just so critical. Maybe you find your expertise. So as for example, when I did My Book Shepherd, @MyBookShepherd, that ties in my expertise as a book shepherd. Second is, once you have the right handle that feels right to you, then you go in and you create a profile. And on the profile is that, and with all social media, there's some kind of profile. Each profile in all the platforms allow you to have so many characters or words. And so you need to pay attention to it. But one of the things I want to encourage you to do is not only choosing your words wisely, but if you have expertise in anything that you are tying in with your book, your publishing, your field, your consulting, fill in the blank, that you want to get the word expert. It's going to be, if you go through any of the search engines of what words are used for authority, expert is going to be the biggie. So for heaven's sakes, if someone is looking for someone to help them with their pig farming, you would put in expert in pig farming. Moreover, an authority in pig farming. So expert would be the one do. So your search fields could be, an expert in gluten recipes, could be an expert in book publishing, expert in money strategies, expert in military history. If you're an author, go ahead and say you're an author. If you've won a lot of book awards, you could say multi-award winning, best-selling author. It brings all those things. Hook. That's what the hook is for, and you start bringing your people the way. But having expert in is important. Also, make sure that you have a mention, a tie-in to your website, because when people are searching around for an expert, especially if it's a reporter or a journalist, and they're going to want to know, they may find you in the Twitter stream, and then they want to be able to link over to where your website is. So does that reflect that expertise that you want to have? And that's critical. The next thing is you got to start putting stuff out. And also you want to follow people. So who are like-minded experts like yourself? Who are your competitors? Who are other people you admire? Start following them. Again, in many, many, many cases, they will have an automatic follow back. And there are some really nifty tricks that you can do to start building your herd. Because, for example, I'm in book publishing. That's my expertise. And in book publishing, there's lots of other people that I know very well that I follow. Little trick here, I can in turn follow their followers. I mean, you can pull them up who they are. Now, there's a variety of programs that are available. One is called Tweepy, Tweepi, Tweepy. There's a free version which allows you to follow up to 200 people at a time from somewhere else. And in fact, Twitter is very generous. They will make recommendations to you once they see some patterns of other people that maybe you should follow. And you will, for example, what comes up in my stream when I'm on my own profile page on Twitter, that they often will have the word author in their description of who they are, just that little clip, because they figured out I'm interested in interacting with other authors. And certainly the information that I post is full of author tips, tricks, essentials, ideas for busy authors, a variety of things out there. So use the word expert, tie it in, and certainly what it is in, because that's what you're trying to hook. Next, that when you can use something like Tweepy, Tweepi, free for 200 follows. If you want to pay, not much, and it's a one-time shot, for 500 people to follow, you can do that, which is what, we do. Now, the side of that is that if we monitor it, if they don't follow us back within say a 2-week period of time, we actually will clear them out of our system and we will unfollow them because obviously they're not interested. So you have to stay on top of that a little bit, and it's just something that we will go through. We just, once a week, we will go through and clean out the decks, so to speak. And a lot of people get nervous. Well, wait a minute, I don't want to unfollow people. Well, yes, you do, because you always want to show that there are more people following you than those that you are following. So you want to have more of them and less of you going out. But meanwhile, you put up lots of posts and you share a lot of information. All right, we have much more coming up on how to become a powerhouse in using Twitter. I'm Judith Briles. I'm your book shepherd, and it's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
Is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join AuthorU today through its website at AuthorU.org. Follow AuthorU on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at AuthorU, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. AuthorU, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
First impressions are everything in the world of book publishing. Whether your book is an ebook, a print version, or both, your book cover needs to pop, sizzle, and sparkle to immediately capture the attention of your audience. And your book's interior needs to be just as dynamic and reflect the professionalism your readers demand. Nick Sellinger of NZ Graphics has won numerous national and international book awards for his cover designs and interior layouts. With over 20 years of experience in graphic design, he knows what it takes to create award-winning books and the many promotional pieces that authors need, such as posters, banners, postcards, one-sheets, business cards, logos, and more. Visit ncgraphics.com and see what authors and publishers have to say about their award-winning books and how NZ Graphics can make your book the success it was meant to be. That's nzgraphics.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so we were talking about ways to build your followers and all that. And another tool I wanted to put on the table was TweetAddler, and TweetAddler, TweetAddler, and that costs $55. And you get within it in the toolkit, but you have an automated tool that follows new people and then unfollows them. You can just automatically schedule it. If they don't follow you back within a few days or a week or 2 weeks, like we would do 2 weeks, then it will automatically delete them. So you don't have to worry about that on that. And there's certain that you can do a variation of that, but that those two, Tweepy and TweetAddler, I think are going to be your best resources for you. Also, that when I mentioned that when Twitter gives you the sometimes it recommends people, they also have something called who to follow. And who to follow directory is where you can find like-minded people or expertise, and where you have common interest in whatever you put in your profiles. And your tweets, and that can be back and forth. So do that, and you'll find that things will start to grow. Now, you want to also add follow buttons to your website. And on your website, the best way to turn existing fans into followers is by adding just a follow button to the site. You can do it on Facebook page, and you can post a link to your Twitter profile there too. So that kind of makes sense. Another technique is to, when you make any comments on other people's blog post, think about using your username, your @ whatever your name is. Most blogs give you the opportunity to comment using your Twitter name, and there's sites that use Discus let you log into your Twitter account directly. When you're going to make an account, it'll ask you, do you have a Twitter account? And if you mark yes, it will when you put in your handle, it'll automatically fill you in with your Twitter name, and you can do it that way, and then you are connected with that. That's the way to just keep that visual area to put that together. Here's another idea for building, when you want to build some things, is that be bold. Ask for people to retweet. If you think something is so amazing or so relevant, important, that you might ask people to retweet. You can do that 2 ways. You can just spell it out, please retweet, or just abbreviate PLS and then RT in caps. And people recognize that as you go move along in the area. And you might want to, I'm going to recommend to your profiles, your signature on your website, that an email that goes out, I would certainly encourage you to make sure that you have that, what your Twitter handle is. Now, some other things is to start building. We're coming to the end of the year. How do you do some building and some follow-up? Well, the first thing is, let's go back to, I was talking about newbies. You started with your creating your profile. Let's talk about upgrading it now. If you've been around here a while, when's the last time you looked at it? And actually, when's the last time you looked at your picture? Is it the right picture? Have you thought about maybe upgrading the photo that you're using? Is it people want to see you? They don't make it so hard that they're squinting to figure what is that image in there. Show them your picture. Sometimes maybe make it just a mask across your eyes. That might get their attention. But something that is a good headshot so they can see who that is. And then, of course, you always want to do the following, follow. And a lot of people get a little lazy here. So that's why I mentioned it so early in the last quarter of our show. So do that. Now, you want to introduce yourself to people. If you want to browse their feed, maybe you'll find a tweet that you could respond to immediately and make a comment. And that might start a short chat coming back and forth. So that's a couple of ideas that you can move along and build it that way in what you're going with that. Now there's some hashtags. People always get confused with the use of hashtags and what they are. It's a pound sign. That's what it looks like. And that your hashtag, if you think about where you're using, the beauty of a hashtag is it opens it up to so many more opportunities for people to see your post just by using a hashtag. And so it's, when you think of Twitter, it's just a giant chat room, but hashtags allow you to have little rooms within the chat room. And some of those little rooms are pretty big as you go through that. So that do use hashtags and use a couple within your tweets. You can put them at the end. Or I stopped adding extra words because if I put out a sentence about something and the key words were already in there, I would just put the pound sign in front of those key words and just keep it short. And if you can keep your tweets in your postings, for example, in the, here you're sitting with Twitter has just opened up new rules where that if you had images that you attached, videos you attached, that it wouldn't count in your 140 count, which is terrific. But I'm trying to, so people can do the reposting, the retweet. That see when they retweet your information, especially if it gets retweeted a couple of times, that those individuals' handles are with it. I mean, many times I've had to delete the handle because it was so long from the post that I wanted to do the retweet of. So you really want to take advantage of that do the retweet. Ask people to retweet, always a good idea, and then come along with it. And there's also in the use of the hashtags in the area that you can use them in a specific, just one word or several words. Now, when you use the several words, and let's say you had a key phrase, or maybe it would be something like you had, Christmas pink pigs, and somehow you were raising them or supporting them or doing a cause for them. So you wouldn't do Christmas space pink space pigs. You would do Christmas pink pigs without any spacing, but you put the hashtag in front, and it seems to find its way there. So you want to stick to just a couple of hashtags with what you're doing there. And that will pick up that way. And just about all of the social media sites are using hashtag, where it used to be exclusively the Twitter, and then the others have started picking that up and the ability to do that. So that's a good thing to have. It's a smart thing to do with what you're doing and to move it along in the process. So I'm going to highly recommend that. So let's talk about maybe some marketing ideas that you can do with Twitter, and that there certainly trends are out there. There's almost 300 million monthly active Twitter users. Certainly with the political season that we have just I think we've come off it, but maybe we're still going through it, that it was aggressively been the use. And that there are a huge amount of Twitter accounts that are outside the U.S., huge amount. So that's where those come from, and with our active users in that area. So when you look at the mobile applications, that roughly 80% of Twitter users use Twitter on their cell phone. 80%. Over 500 million tweets are sent a day. And then, of course, if something is really hot and trending or controversial, you're going to see that pick up quite a bit. But you've got a huge arena in that area. So you've got the ability to think about marketing, and that, one of the things, and we're going to take a break here pretty quick, but one of the things I want you to be tuned into and to be aware of, that when you're thinking about doing a launching of a campaign for your book, whether it's a bestseller campaign, whether it's a renewed campaign, whether it's something for a talk you have, a webinar you're doing, a presentation you're giving somewhere, whatever it is, that if you're going to be starting to, let's say, flood your stream with a boatload of information coming down from you that would be in the promo scan. I mean, it's very even common that people have used 15 and 18 for every 15 or every 18, that kind of range, 15 to 18. For every 15 to 18 tweets, it is not about promotion. It's not about pushing buy me, see me, help me, whatever that is. It's about informational sharing, ahas, posts, and the like. And I'll share when we come back some of the things that I routinely do every day on Twitter. But what you want to do is that you put out things that when you're going to be doing a campaign, give a forewarning to your stream. And it could be tomorrow is the big day, launching new book, and whatever my character count is here, and watch for a bunch load of tweets, and I would post that maybe 4 times so they have it. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. This is Judith Briles, and it's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
Is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Want to publish like a pro today? Well, then take a look at Ingram Spark, the only publishing platform that offers print and ebook services through a single source. Upload, edit, and manage titles all in one place. Take more control of printing costs with print on demand, and reach even more readers through one of the world's most extensive distribution networks. Built by independent publishers for independent publishers, Ingram Spark has everything you need to maximize your book's potential: color printing, ebook distribution, print on demand, global reach, and more. Start publishing with Ingram Spark today and see just how far your titles will go tomorrow. That's ingramspark.com.
Many of us have dreamed of writing a book.
Some of us even have.
Then the hard work starts.
You'll need an editor.
Who will design the cover or typeset the pages?
Who will format the ebook?
If you're a business owner, consultant, or coach with a serious message and expertise to share, the team of experts at 1106 Design can guide you through the maze.
They've helped more than 1,000 authors create top-quality books and avoid the not-so-reputable self-publishing companies.
Learn more at 1106design.com.
Then call Michelle at 602-866-3226. 1106 Design.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so we're deep in the heart of Twitterland. And we're talking about, the beginning to set up to how to, you should all be kind of checking over, just a reminder of what you've got in your profiles. Does it say expertise, tie it into what you have, so people who are looking for you can find you with key areas. So what I want to do here is to just kind of look at some of the tricks for making your 140 character Twitter tweets that a lot of the pros use as we go along. So one is, don't get caught up in all the multi-retweets. I know people feel like they need to give credit to everyone and their uncle, but if you're running low on characters, you got to cut out some of the retweets, the RTs, as I indicated them. Be willing to use some word shortcuts. So, for example, do you need to spell out with when maybe W// can work? And that characters could be CHARS. Certainly retweet is RT. So look for the ways that you can do some abbreviations. And a lot of times when I know that if I'm starting to push it 130 characters, that I'll go back. Did I really need the word "the" in there? Can I shorten it up with that abbreviation factor? And sometimes another trick that you can do, the grammar police are going to go cuckoo here, is you can actually drop some vowels from your words. For example, the word classroom could be CLASSRM, ballroom, BALLRM, that people will automatically read into it what it is. When you think about contractions, for example, these are kind of easy. It is, which would be 5 characters, becomes it's, which is 4. Cannot, which is 7, because I'm counting the space, becomes can't, which is 5. So look where you can cut down those words. You don't have to spell everything out, is what I'm trying to say. If you have in your words the word A&D, maybe just use a plus sign, and that might work as long as it flows for you. And that if sometimes when you are writing, and instead of writing the word out of number, which is 6 letters, 6 characters, just the pound sign, which also means number, and certainly the percent sign instead of writing out the word percent. That a lot of times, another tip is that you can drop pronouns. And the easy way is to lose the word like that. So if you becomes and some people even, for example, the word love, they'll spell it L-U-V instead of L-O-V-E. But what we're really saying is you want to omit needless words, and you just really shorten. And you can eliminate the word I. You can drop that because we already know you're sending it. Its I is involved. And then if instead of writing out numbers, whether it's 3, which is 5 characters, you can put the number 3 and it is 1 character. So you always want to remove extra spaces. And the other thing is tweaking and rewriting. For example, after every radio show, I will write a series of tweets that I will then reposition and repost out to broadcast to my followers to let them know that there's a new show up and they can go over to it. So with doing that, and then if I have a guest on, I also give them to him or her, and they send it out and they start scheduling and pushing it out. So you want to have that. And when I'm going in, I always do a count by the time I get the hashtag in there. Hashtag or 2, I always do a count, and if it gets too much over 130, boy, I am cutting back because you want to do the retweet. Then the other thing that's very important is to make sure that you use some type of a shorten link for them. Now, I use for one of my management tools, Hootsuite. I mean, there's plenty of them out there. There's, certainly Egger, there's Buffer, there's a variety of them. And they have built-in shortens to any link, because if you go and capture a link to anything, often it is quite long. And especially if you're doing a book promotion and you're up on an Amazon page, the copy of, I don't know how, I've never counted all the characters in an Amazon link page, but it's a boatload. And so Hootsuite has theirs is called Alley, but you could go in and you could have those, and then you would put them together, and you can also go to Tiny URL, or you can go to Bit.ly and shorten them up. You can even customize a link if you want, and that makes it more tied into whatever the topic is. But for heaven's sakes, don't put in these long goodies that will come up and have you going off in perpetuity for a variety of areas, because that'll make your readers cuckoo, and it will make you cuckoo as well. Now, as you're building your Twitter, and as you're getting there, it's not difficult. Truly, it's not difficulty. You want to think of these tweets as little tidbits, little mini bites of conversation that you throw out. You will get people respond. Rule, ethics, the Twitter ethics, as you respond back. You may have a comment actually sent back, or you may simply say, thank you for the mention. Thank you for the RT. That kind of thing. And I know we go through every day to make sure that we acknowledge people who have reposted our things, retweeted our things, and the like. So you want to keep a watch out on that, so you have it. And then you want to look at the whole area of really setting this up. How can you get in and think about, is there something like, there's some cheat sheets, for example, Twitter terms. So let me give you a few of them. When you use the @ sign, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, the @ sign in front of a username, and you can tag other people. For example, maybe you're presenting somewhere and some other key speakers are there. You could use the @ sign and then their name, their username handle, in there too, that it would then go out to their feed and show up in that area. You have the capability of making a direct message to a follower, that anyone who is already following you, and that's called the DM. And Twitter has the capability, right, where you can just direct message them back, or you can retweet. If you have, for example, I mentioned earlier that I have several Twitter accounts that I may want to retweet something from my Book Shepherd account, or from the AuthorU account, or maybe from my own personal account, that I would have different things that I would do there. Now, another word, I've used it several times, a follower is someone who follows you in your stream and tweets. And a retweet, or RT, is when someone likes what they read or they saw. Maybe you send an image, maybe you send a video along, that you shoot that out. And then the other very common one, of course, is the hashtag. So with that said, let me give you some tips on some guidelines that you want to kind of stick with, and you go through that area to just make sure that you have that in place. So one is you could say what you think you're doing. You want to keep your tweets longer than 1 word so your followers can understand you. I mean, really, you have to think, you've got to have some dialogue going on here. You want to listen to what your Twitter network is saying. Maybe there's some trending going on that you need to know about. You want to respond to your Twitter followers when you can add value to the conversation. Otherwise, just let it flow. You want to at least, this is a conversation with one of my clients, and we were talking about what he was doing with we were talking about platform building, and it turns out he maybe tweeted 4 times a month. That isn't going to do it. Remember, a tweet is very short-lived. And when you start building up your streams and your followers, it's going to get shorter and shorter for you to be able to be tracking certain people, if that's what you're trying to do. It's going to be very difficult with that. So that what you want to do is to make sure that because your tweet could maybe only last 15 seconds. Can you imagine? Or it could last a long time. It could be in there for 40 minutes. But I only think of them in there for a minute max. So every tweet that I put out, I repeat it at least 3 times during the day, over the period of the day. And I actually put out a boatload of tweets during the day about a variety of different topics. And Twitter will ding you if you keep repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. You're gonna see it's blocked. All of a sudden it disappears. So that what you want to do is variation, different words. Like I do a radio show on one topic, but I'll have maybe 10 different tweets that relate to it. All right, we'll be right back with our final segment. More on Twitter tips so you can be Twitter terrific.
Is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today. 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207. Or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
One of the most important decisions you will ever make is your choice for printing your book. You are choosing a company which will be responsible for guiding you through the process and printing your book at a level of quality and detail that embraces your personal and creative needs. You want to choose a company that when your book finally arrives, you are delighted and ready to move on to the next level, and one that is customer focused. Choose King Printing Company and Addy Books to be that company that brings you to the next level. Go to kingprinting.com or call 978-458-2345 and ask for Tom Campbell.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Okay, so in our last segment, let's talk about a couple of things, and and I want to give you away even we've mentioned many times about newsjacking and marketing and newsjacking stories. For example, we just came through this election, and you could have, for example, something like the day of election or the day before the election, or let's talk post the election. It could be election day blues, ? Poof. In 5 days, the blankety blank blank arrives. Now that's something to get really excited about. Right? Those kind of things, you can tap into something that's going on with the election, with a news event that is trending, that is all over the news. That's why I'm a huge believer. And one of the things I would recommend to all of you, I tell all my authors to do this, is make sure that you have the mobile app of USA Today on your phone. It's a freebie, but you can find out what's the breaking news, what's trending without going through all the news channels type of things. But USA Today keeps pretty much up on that. And even though it's a once-a-day paper, it doesn't mean that they don't continually add goodies throughout the day. And see what's hot. And, look in sports. Look in the life section. Look in the money section. Look in, the homepage. Look in the opinion political. Look at all of it. And then what you can do is that if you can really take advantage of that, you can do a contrarian. You can say, whether it is that your book's not rigged. You could do a variety of things and have some fun, but it gets people's attention, gets them to chuckle, and they might click over and read some more. So what the heck? Why not? And take advantage of that. So I just wanted to suggest that to you. All right. So here's some things that things of not want to do. I want you to pay attention to. These are etiquettes that when you first sign up, you want to start very regularly. When I mentioned that I had a client, he said, he's doing, he had books that had some zombies in it in his fiction line, and I said when we talked about some of his competitors that, and looking at it, that certainly what's going on in Walking Dead. Well, I said, but what you're tweeting, you're treating your social media like The Walking Dead. There is no action. They're all, they're space cadets. So what you have to do is you can't tweet 4 times in a month. You can't blog, 1 time in 4 months. It's not going to work. You have to be committed and focused to go through with that. So you start off and do it very slowly. Now, the second thing is you want to start slowly. And certainly following a few people that you know and who know you, and they come back. And as you start tweeting on a regular basis, and I'd like to see you to get 3 to 4 tweets out a day. Use a social media management tool like a Hootsuite, an Edgar, or a Buffer, as I mentioned earlier, that you could actually schedule. You could sit down on a Saturday afternoon and take, a half hour to an hour, and you could just pop out and you could schedule your entire week of tweets, of just have them all done. And you can go in the scheduler and you can have each day between certain times. And one thing's important, you need to understand that not whatever your time zone is. I'm Mountain Time, but I have people I'm interacting with on the East Coast. I have people I interact with, in Europe. I have people I interact with in Hawaii. All right, so I've got a lot of time zone ranges. If I only posted from, let's say, 9 to 4, 9 to 5, I could be missing the Hawaii people who are 3 to 4 hours, depending upon daylight savings or what, where you are. And I could be shutting down when, they might be just getting ready to rev up and pay attention to that. So think about a broader spectrum. One of my friends really doesn't start posting until late in the evening because that's when all her followers are there. So just make sure that you tune into that. You want to always avoid punctuation in your username. No explanations, no hashtags, no, outrageous type of things. You want that when you go into typing punctuation, for example, on mobile devices, I've already said close to 80% of people who look at Twitter are doing it on mobiles. It gets more difficult, so don't do it. Next up, don't share information that you will ever regret made public. Think WikiLeaks. Don't put it out. Once you put it out, it is out. Don't send an update when a direct out to everybody in the world, when maybe a direct message to a single individual is more appropriate. So pay attention to that. That's, like TMF, too much information. Don't feel the need to thank everyone public for following you. I see this all the time. Really, you just don't need to do that. So those are some of the things that you want to do. And certainly, as I said, if you're going to do a campaign of any sort and you're going to be flooding your Twitter stream with information, with updates, with support, with encouragement to go buy, let them have a heads up ahead of time, because that's always a good idea in that arena. Now, one of the other things I want to do before we go up in doing that is that some of the things that you want to really think about building your following that I've mentioned earlier. Let me just to recap some of these goodies. I want you to make sure you follow the leaders, your competitors. Who are they? And you want to actually pepper your own tweets with them and use their handle back, or you use a retweet if you're bringing something over, because they could become fans of yours and support you, especially when you might need that with that. You want to supply information. Twitter is about giving information, giving content. So don't, imitate success. Make sure you use the hashtags. And by the way, one of the great ways to build followings is by citing quotations. And I'm going to make a suggestion to you. Not only put them out in words, the quotation in words, but also what about making a poster of some sort, like going over to Canva, Canva, going over to Canva and just putting your quote on a very simple background. You don't have to pay for it. You can background and put it across, and you can do that. And you can have that, and you get it, and people will retweet those. They get retweeted, and all of a sudden you start following. So I always think of my words of being, snappy, sassy, salty when I think of going that. You want to be, as a Twitter, your tactic is you want to be a really good information giver. I believe that it's really a good idea to use a hashtag as much as you can in every following. And if you're retweeting somebody, by the way, why not do a little bracket and say good info bracket, and just you're giving your kind of, your support. How do you find the sources? If you go to something called hashtag.com, you can find the sources. And by the way, if you go over to hashtag.org, that you can go over and check it out, where you can claim a hashtag. Where we used to be able to do it before, you can actually claim it and you can pay for it, so you own it. So like I own AuthorU and AuthorU. I actually own a short book that I write in, a variety of other things in those areas. And there's just so much more that you can do to be successful in this. But Twitter is a great resource. It's one that I've really had a lot of fun with in the process of doing it. And I know it works with that quick connecting, that marketing. And as I said to you, that when you identify who your comrades are, who your peers are, who your competitors are, and you're following them, you've got the capability of following their followers. Why would you do that? Simply this: they have already proven that their expertise, their information is something their followers are interested in. If you are in the same ballpark and doing the same kind of thing, wouldn't it not make sense that they would follow you back as well? But you're supplying a little bit different information, a different information with a twist. So it's just something that it's a great way to become very aggressive in it and build your following, build your fans, support your book, support yourself as the author expert. And that's just the best of the best. All right, so we'll do a wrap up. Guess what we're going to be doing on Thanksgiving? We're going to have my favorite geek girl back, Kelly Johnson, and we're going to go through some of the hottest tools that we saw for this year and what we see coming on for next year, so you can get ready and start planning over the Thanksgiving weekend. Have a great week. Keep writing and keep publishing.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week, a variety